Welcome all you guitar nerds out there. Here's another interesting project that came into the shop. A Fender Princeton Brownface model 6G2. What came in for a repair ended up in a complete restoration. If you would like to look over my shoulder, stay tuned. The date code on the tube chart shows ME, and that points to May 1963. Cosmetically, this amp is in outstanding good condition, but see what happened when I switched it on for the first time. What a disaster, right? Let's listen to that one more time. Let's start with the first inspection and look what I found in the back of the cabinet. A step-down transformer to bring the wall voltage down from 220 volts to US standards 110. This joker is in a bad shape. Look at the terminal. The isolation is totally brittle and missing completely on the 240 volt lug. There's a good chance to get shocked when you stick your hand in the back of the cabinet. And this transformer does not deliver the required 110 volts. Nope, it's 164. So I have to talk to the owner. The best way to go is swapping out the original transformer for a 220 volt tranny. Another thing that I want to upgrade is the heater supply, as you can see here on the schematic. These amps just have one heater wire, the other half of the 6.3 volts go to ground, to the chassis. So I want to change that from a single wire to a twisted pair and install an artificial center tap. That will bring the heater supply to blackface standard and suppress heater hum. When I checked some voltages in the amp using my step-down transformer, the negative bias voltage was around 6 volts. That's far too low. The schematic calls for minus 35 volts. This was the reason: a defective diode in the bias circuit. No big deal to fix that. Here's a diode hooked up to a multimeter that's working fine. You see the difference. The next fun one I came across is the cap cam. In this case, it's a replacement, but not a good one. It's a Siemens branded cap can made in Germany. The diameter is too small for the hole in the chassis, and somebody had the bright idea to put a washer underneath. And to get the ground connection, he soldered the washer to the chassis. Or should I say, at least he tried. Look at this. A very professional ground connection. In an old amp like this, it's absolutely necessary to change the electrolytic capacitors, like bypass caps, filter caps, and so on. And here's why. Instead of 25 microfarad, this one measures 70, 83, or this one 229 microfarad. All these caps are faulty. They have to go. Another good indicator that a filter cap is faulty is this. These little bubbles show that they are physically leaky. Well, the owner gave me the permission to change the transformer, so let's go. I know it's sad to get rid of the old shoemaker, but the new Hammond transformer is not bad either. And you have to use common sense. What do you want? Do you want an amp that's reliable, that you can take to rehearsals and gigs? An amp that you can have fun with day after day? Or do you want a collector's piece for a museum where everything is original? but not really in a shape that everything functions perfectly. So the best thing you can do is change the transformer and put the shoemaker in the closet. And when you sell the amp and somebody wants to bring it back to stock conditions, you can give it to him, and so everything is fine. So here's the new transformer in place. It's a drop-in replacement, so no problems to get that thing installed. Next step in the restoration of this amp, the can capacitor. Let's see. To get a good ground connection, I use my Godzilla solder iron to heat up the chassis sufficiently. And yeah, as you can see, it has to be very hot. Otherwise, you don't have no chance to get a good ground connection. This is a new capacitor. It's a drop-in replacement as well. Pretty expensive, but you know, to bring that back to good conditions, to original conditions, this is a first choice. And as you can see, it fits. The ground lugs get connected to the chassis. And now it's time to put back the wires in place. Therefore, I put a little bit of solder to the lugs and we connect the wires to the solder lugs of the capacitor. It's a good idea to bend them around to give them a little bit of physical connections. Time for the next step. Now it's time to change the bypass capacitors. On Fender amps, it's a pretty easy job to do because of the eyelet board. You know, you just drop it in. It's easy. Yeah, that looks good to me. While I was checking the resistors, I found this. There's a 1 meg resistor in the tremolo circuit instead of the required 220K. Interesting, huh? Maybe the person who assembled this eyelet board way back in 1963 was still a little bit drunk on a Monday morning. I think it's a good time for a little overview to see what has been done so far. The bypass caps are new. here is a 220K resistor in the tremolo circuit instead of the 1 mag. And the new CAN capacitor. Here is the new 220 volt power transformer. I installed a 3-prong power cord, disconnected the ground switch and the death cap. And here you can see the artificial center tap to balance the heater voltage, and 2 new screen grid resistors. They were pretty much toasted. The heater wire is twisted to suppress noise, and we have a new output jack for the loudspeaker. Also, there's a new bypass cap and a new diode in the bias circuit. Let's hook the speaker up and see if everything works fine. Nope, this is definitely not what I wanted to hear. Let's see what the reason is. The reason is, ta-da, a blown speaker. One thing I want to share with you is this. This amp seems to have the original tubes from 1963. Nice Sylvania and RCA tubes. You don't see these too often nowadays. Beautiful. So let's check the bias, see if these tubes are matched or not. Well, I assume that they are not, because in these times people didn't give a damn for matched tubes. Alright, let's switch it on. The tubes are starting to draw current. Okay, the matching is not perfect with 15 milliamps and 18 milliamps, but the bias is okay with 325 volts on the plates. And also we have fixed bias in this amp. It's not adjustable, so we have to live with it anyhow. The owner gave me an old 10-inch Utah speaker that he had lying around, and I think if you compare that to the original Oxford, it's an upgrade for this amp too. So now it's time to listen to the Fender Princeton Brownface Model 6G2 from 1963. Enjoy it.